Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting of the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee to order. Members, please sign in to your microphone stations. And then we are going to take the roll. We will open it up now to take the roll. So once you're logged in, you'll hit the PNV button. All right. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, we have 15 members present. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. At this time, members, we will all stand, and I'll call on Chairman Grills to say the prayer, and then Chairman Vidal, Chairman Darby to say the pledge with us. If y'all join us.
All right. Bow with me, please. God, we sure thank you for the day that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for the country that you've given us and the freedoms that we get to experience. God, we thank you for Jesus and him dying on the cross to save us from our sins. And God, I pray that everyone in this room that's under my voice, the sound of my voice, God, has made that decision and has that relationship with you. God, I thank you for our families and Lord, wherever they are, and Lord, of the different ailments that are going on in their lives. God, I pray for them. God, I pray that you give us wisdom. I pray that you give us discernment. God, I pray that you give us a backbone like a saw log to be able to stand in the face of adversity and Lord, just do what's right, regardless of the consequences. God, we sure do love you and thank you for loving us. Thank you for your blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us in that. Today, I want to first welcome some FFA members here this morning that are from the Lebanon chapter. We really appreciate you being here with us. If y'all would stand for us, anybody associated with that group, and we'd like to recognize you. And we have some other FFA members as well. Thank you all for joining us and blessing us with your presence this morning. Any other personal orders? Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like for the committee to help me recognize my intern, Colin Booker, who is here with us today. If y'all would help me make a welcome.
Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And FFA means a lot to a lot of different people. So if I may, I would like to ask all sitting members as well as the audience, if you are or have been an FFA member, please stand.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I think that was a great idea. Seeing no other personal orders, one of our things that we do in this committee is we read a little fact or tidbit about our state each day that we're in session. So this is the Cave of Secrets. The bones of an animal that wandered into a Tennessee cave 20,000 years ago and fell to its death are displayed in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. The remains of this Pleistocene-era jaguar were discovered in 1939. Some of the bones were kept at the Craighead Cavern Visitor Center in Sweetwater, along with the plaster cast of the jaguar tracks. The caverns, used as housing by the Cherokee by early settlers to store vegetables, and during the Civil War to mine saltpeter, were hiding another secret, a lost sea. In 1905, a 13-year-old boy named Ben Sands was exploring the cave when he crawled through a small opening 300 feet underground and saw a huge underground lake. While the size of the visible lake was easily determined, it is 800 feet long by 220 feet wide. Researchers have yet to figure out how far the water system goes into the caverns. Named the Lost Sea, the body of water is listed by the Guinness Book of World Records as America's largest underground lake. It is the second largest in the world, according to some sources. Divers have entered the 4.5-acre lake to try to determine its end, only to find an even larger series of rooms filled with water. More than 13 acres of water have been discovered so far, according to the Lost Sea website. On a wall of the caverns is written the date 1863, which was carbon dated and proved to be authentic. It is believed to have been written by a soldier during the burned end, using the burned end of a torch. In 1915, someone had the idea to open the caverns to the public. Often in the early 20th century, caves were used for illicit liquor and wild parties. At Craighead Caverns, a dance floor was installed in a large upper room, while cockfights were held for entertainment in another area. Deep inside the tunnels, moonshine operations were installed. Visitors to the cavern today will hear its colorful history from guides. At the Lost Sea, guests can take glass-bottom boat rides onto the lake. Although it is home to some of the largest rainbow trout in North America, fishing is prohibited. The Lost Sea has been designated as a registered national landmark, so another treasure within the state of Tennessee. At this time, we do not have any items on our calendar, but we do have 2 presentations. And without objection, we will go out of session to hear those presentations. So at this time, we are out of session. First, we have a presentation from Tennessee's Solid Waste Crisis, Vast Economic Opportunity. Mr. Gary Cohen and anyone with you, sir, may approach and have a seat. And I think you have a presentation ready for us. We will activate all of your microphones, and I'll let Mr. Cohen start, and then anyone that wants to speak, feel free at your discretion. You're recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hello? Great. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and esteemed members of this committee. And thank you for this opportunity to present this morning. My name is Gary Cohen, and I'm the Volunteer Outreach Director for the Tennessee Waste to Jobs Coalition. I am joined today by Donna Kopecki, Vice President of Sustainability, Kaiser Aluminum, headquartered in Franklin, Tennessee, and Mr. Don Haynes, Sustainability Manager, Florum USA, headquartered in Clarksville, Tennessee. And to my left, Mr. Cody Marshall, Chief Recycling Officer, the Recycling Partnership. And we're here today to present how Tennessee's solid waste crisis equals vast economic opportunities. I began my career in 1974, working in my family's business that sold packaging. I've packaged perishable foods, electronics, clothing, appliances, including some of the products on the screen. I'll be retiring from packaging sales this year. Amen. Over my 50-year career, I've been a witness and a participant in the growth of packaging, especially single-use packaging that have filled our retail stores and have overwhelmed our landfills. E-commerce has increased waste. China stopped taking our plastic waste in 2018. I have spent my career working with the industry that creates the packaging waste, and I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And that is why I am here today, a concerned Tennessee citizen and a volunteer. 2.5 years ago, I discovered that Tennessee had a severe landfill crisis and that packaging waste accounted for almost 40% of all solid waste. I learned Tennessee is ranked 48th in the nation with a 12% recycling rate, with a participation rate of only 47% of our residents. We landfill over 900,000 tons of packaging waste every year. Clearly, the status quo is not working, and we need a new plan, and one that is not dependent on taxpayer funding. Cities and counties have tried to educate the public and fund municipal recycling programs through grants and taxpayer funding, but it's just not enough. TDEC's 2021 Annual Solid Waste Report called for developing sustainable funding sources. TDEC clearly recognizes the need for alternative funding mechanisms besides the taxpayer. It's one of their key objectives. Mr. Chairman, members of this committee, EPR, or Extended Producer Responsibility Policy, is a non-taxpayer sustainable funding source. EPR is the answer to TDEC's objective number 8. Producers and brands such as Mars, Unilever, IKEA, Nestle, and Danone support EPR policy around the world and are willing to fund this policy. They want their packaging recycled. They're focused on finding policy solutions that transform the current waste and recycling systems. EPR policy is not new. It's been around for over 30 years. It's been implemented around the world and most recently in 5 states. Here's the basic structure. EPR legislation establishes the funding source called the Producer Responsibility Organization, or PRO. The PRO does not have broad authority. It reports to an advisory board made up of many stakeholders. The PRO and the advisory board report to a governing agency. For example, here in Tennessee, it would be TDEC. The PRO will execute a plan and budget that is created and approved in that chain of command. EPR policy can vary from state to state and country to country. It's a complex policy and can be confusing. However, there's a team of experts, including the Recycling Partnership and Cody Marshall, and from the Recycling Partnership, and they are here and help to explain and educate. With EPR policy, Tennessee could be the Southeast leader in recycled materials. We could divert almost 1 million tons of glass, aluminum, paper, and plastic from our landfills. EPR funding would help Tennessee companies reduce their dependence on foreign imports. EPR funding will create new jobs and economic development while saving hundreds of millions of dollars on taxpayer dollars on landfill costs. Today, we have 2 representatives from 2 Tennessee companies who would benefit from this policy, Kaiser Aluminum and Florum USA, who have helped our coalition to create this video that affirms the need for such a policy. Sorry, sir, this video is not working right.
Got a couple folks coming to help.
Thank you, sir.
If that doesn't work, I got a hammer up here.
Is it on YouTube or is it?
It's on YouTube.
Okay. Do we have YouTube access here? See if we get the. Do you have the YouTube link?
Yes, it's there.
Becky from Aluminum, Kaiser Aluminum, and let her
Go ahead, sorry. Go.
I'll just jump.
Every year, Billions of pounds of trash are buried in landfills across Tennessee.
Not in my backyard. That's what people living in Rutherford County are saying about yet another proposal to build more of the Middle Point landfill next to the one that's already there.
Before you can even see the Middle Point landfill, you
Billions of pounds. Every year, billions of pounds of trash are buried in landfills across Tennessee.
Not in my backyard. That's what people living in Rutherford County are saying about yet another proposal to build more of the Middle Point landfill next to the one that's already.
Doesn't look like we have any control over the audio at this point. Can you hear it on the device itself? We can try the microphone and see if that picks it up.
Every year, billions of pounds of trash are buried in landfills across Tennessee.
Not in my backyard. That's what people living in Rutherford County are saying about yet another proposal to build more of the Middle Point landfill next to the one that's already there.
Before you can even see the Middle Point landfill, you can smell it.
With the population boom in Middle Tennessee, landfills are filling up fast.
Of all that waste, 75% could be recovered and put back into our economy. But today, Tennessee only recycles about 10% of our waste. We can solve this. There are industries right here in Tennessee that need those materials we are currently sending to our landfills.
Kaiser Aluminum is a semi-fabricated aluminum products company. We manufacture products for aerospace, packaging, general engineering, as well as automotive and markets. So currently what we're facing is 2/3 of our primary aluminum in the United States comes from Canada. On average, $800 million to $1 billion annually worth of aluminum beverage cans hitting the landfills. And because aluminum is infinitely recyclable, we could capture that material and bring it back into our facilities. It would certainly help alleviate a lot of the supply issues that we're dealing with, and we may be dealing with significantly into the future. And the only way to do that is through better state and federal policies.
The aluminum industry has an economic impact of $9 billion annually in Tennessee. Its impacts can be felt across the entire state. In Huntingdon, Grangus operates one of its 3 U.S. aluminum rolling facilities. Grangus is the largest employer in Carroll County with more than 500 employees.
And we're a global foil manufacturing facility. And customers put that in all kinds of applications, everything from HVAC to automotive to flexible packaging, even thinking about all the way down to a Capri Sun or a peanut butter lid. That is the aluminum that you see that comes from our facilities.
We could function almost on 100% recyclable if we can get it to fill our demand. It's really kind of traded like a commodity. It's not a fight, but it's a challenge to find an adequate continuous supply. Beverage cans, turkey basters or pie pans and stuff, that's a lot of aluminum, a lot of good great aluminum that we could use. It's a win all around. It's cheaper, it's less electricity, and it's less emissions than converting it from ore out of the ground.
The recycling he's talking about is taking place just east in Dixon, Tennessee, at Shapiro Metals.
We get probably 75 to 80% of the materials from Tennessee. We do aluminum, we do stainless, we do coppers, a lot of ferrous, cardboard, some plastics. We'll put it on the line, run it up into the baler, it'll compact it. It'll
Must have lost internet connection.
We will send a link to that video to the members of the committee, and sorry that didn't work. We can hear part of it, but you're welcome to proceed, sir.
Technology is sometimes a wonderful thing for us, and sometimes it goes ahead and just reminds us who's in charge, right? So what you will see, in addition to the story on aluminum, the aluminum industry, as it was said, is a $9 billion industry here in Tennessee, employs tens of thousands of people, and 2/3 of their aluminum is coming from Canada. And we're throwing away almost 1 billion pounds in the United States of aluminum. Here in the state of Tennessee, Cody Marshall can speak how much, but we're throwing away almost 90% of our aluminum cans here in Tennessee. The next step would have been, we're going to introduce Mr. Don Haynes. Don is with Florum USA. We have been going around in educating folks that the tile industry, and Don will speak to this, is a major industry here in Tennessee because of a particular raw clay. So Don, may I introduce Don, sir?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Good morning, all. My name's Don Haynes. I'm the EHS and Sustainability Manager at Florum USA. We're the United States' largest single-site producer of porcelain tile, and Tennessee is the largest producer of porcelain tile in the U.S. There's 8 tile factories in Tennessee now, more on the way, all because of a couple of things, one of which is good Weakley County clay, and the second is good transportation system. We're quick drive to most everybody in the world, in America. So it's a strong industry. Like I say, there's 8 factories. Tile is made up of sand, clay, and feldspar. Sand is easy to get. Feldspar is, we get mining wastes from North Carolina, so that's not a problem. And the sand is good old Ohio River sand. So the materials are right here and they're close by. However, we are green. We have a green symbol in our corporate logo. Our owner in Italy wants us to be green. So we want post-consumer waste. The glass that would be obtained from something like this, we could substitute in just for sand, keep many tons of it out of the landfill on an annual basis, and make a post-consumer tile that the buyers want. We can have that tile, and just from a pure business standpoint, we'll get a better dollar for it just because it's green. So that's our goal in it. I mean, and to cut to the chase, I'm not an expert on EPR. I'm not an expert on recycling, but I am an expert on using the glass. We would like the glass. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, on the video, you will hear Don say that they could use, and the tile industry could use, every single glass bottle in the state of Tennessee, and they would still need to buy more. That's a lot of glass. And then finally, we would have a plastic section, and we would have a lady by the name of Stephanie Baker from KW Plastics, which is about 260 miles south of here. KW is the largest recycler of plastics in the nation. They are longing for Tennessee's plastic products. They could take it, and then you'll hear in the video Stephanie saying she wants to buy it, she needs to buy it, and she's looking to write checks to Tennessee so that she can get it. We just don't have the collection and the infrastructure to get it. And this is what EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, would do. It would improve the recycling infrastructure. And lastly, you would see in the video a video of a facility up in Columbus, Ohio by MachineX, or Rumpke is the owner of it, and they have MachineX that will show the state-of-the-art technology that is available today. This was a $100 million facility that can process 250,000 tons of waste into almost 15 commodities. 15 commodities with about a 97 to 98% clean rate, a non-contamination, which is extremely impressive. It's the most advanced recycling system in North America, and we could have one here in Tennessee processing this material if we had the funding. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Mr. Cohen.
To introduce Donna Kopecki from Kaiser Aluminum.
You're recognized, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Donna Kopecki, and I'm the Vice President of Sustainability with Kaiser Aluminum, located here in Franklin, Tennessee. Kaiser Aluminum is a leading semi-fabricated aluminum products manufacturer that has been in operation for nearly 80 years. We have 12 facilities across the U.S. that support aerospace, packaging, general engineering, automotive, and markets, with one of our top producing facilities right here in Jackson, Tennessee. Our plant in Jackson employs 164 workers, comprised of 24 salaried and 140 production workers. In addition, we have approximately 80 salaried employees who work out of our corporate headquarters in Franklin, Tennessee. I'm here today to support this effort in helping build more awareness around the importance of state and federal policy that would help increase the recycling rates of aluminum beverage cans across the United States, and in particular, the state of Tennessee. Almost $1 billion worth of used aluminum beverage cans are being landfilled annually across the U.S. And with the tightening of the U.S. aluminum scrap market due to increasing global demand in the packaging, automotive, and construction end markets, we need to work together to find an effective solution of capturing this valuable material before it hits our landfills. In addition, the U.S. is only capable to produce approximately 1/3 of the total primary, which is new aluminum, supply needed to meet domestic demand, forcing companies to purchase the remaining 2/3 from Canada and other international sources. In 2024, Kaiser Aluminum averaged approximately 50% recycled content across our packaging products combined. We have the capacity to use more recycled aluminum, but it all depends on cost and availability. In addition, by using recycled aluminum in the manufacture of our products, we are able to reduce our carbon emissions because recycled aluminum is 90% less energy intensive to source as compared to the production of primary or new aluminum. Over the past decade, the U.S. aluminum industry has invested over $10 billion in expanding domestic capacity. This growth not only creates jobs and boosts economic circularity, but also supports the rising demand for aluminum. As these investments start to come online, the industry requires a consistent long-term supply of raw materials. So how can you help? For starters, we need to capture more aluminum for recycling across the state, and this can be done by implementing recycling policy at the state level to help dramatically increase aluminum recovery and the recovery of other valuable packaging materials in the state. Investing in recycling infrastructure and more effective sortation technologies for aluminum cans and other materials. And lastly, supporting public and private efforts to help educate, build awareness, and promote the importance of consumer recycling across the state. We believe these actions will be instrumental in enhancing aluminum beverage can recycling rates and ensuring a more sustainable, long-term domestic supply of recycled aluminum that we need. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Thank you for that. Now, we'll say for the general public that may be watching at home when they have nothing else to do, this is a big topic. Waste, the waste that we produce is mounting. And the places that we can put that waste is diminishing. TDEC has told us that. They have studies. They certainly regulate this every day. So we know that we've got a big picture to solve here with just our waste materials. And there are a lot of pieces of that puzzle. Obviously, not everything can be recycled. So there's got to be some amount of landfills or other ways of disposing of trash. I think you've answered part of the question that my constituents ask sometimes is there really an end user for some of these recyclable products? Do we have someone? Because we had an experience where folks were sorting and attempting to recycle, only to discover after a few years that it was all just going to the landfill because there was more cost to get it to someone like yourself that could utilize that material. So if they know, I think if the citizens understand and know there's a need for it and a way to get it there, and that their efforts will be rewarded, at least at them knowing that it's getting to the end user, then I think we can have a lot more participation. So I see all of this as a piece of the puzzle, having folks like you come and say, we need this product. Please find a way to get it to us. And then obviously on the other side of that coin is the landfill issue. What do we do about that? So that's going to be a continuing conversation with this committee and with many others around this state, without a doubt. I want to go to Representative Fritz. I think he has a question or a comment for you. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for coming. I think we spoke some time ago. I appreciate it. And having spent most of my civilian work career in
metals recycling. This greatly interests me. So a couple questions, and just for your comments. What percentage of material that you feed for your final product is from ore versus recycle? And do you have a cost per ton that you could share with that? My second question then would be this. Is there an opportunity, certainly ore is, in all metals production, that's an option for feedstock to come into your process. Is there an opportunity for the companies that do this to basically set up reception centers at their cost so that the consumer could then yield the benefit of recycling their products as they chose and drive the process through the gain of the public? And your thoughts on that, I'd be interested.
Is that directed at Mr. Haynes?
Whomever.
Okay. Mr. Haynes, you're recognized.
And in terms of the recycled content of a porcelain tile, we're about 60% recycled material. That's industrial recycle and our internal recycle. Right now, we don't have a good source for any post-consumer. But we run about 60% and could run more. Chemically, there's no reason it couldn't be 100% if we could find the material.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on the aluminum, I think my interest there probably goes to that metal more. If you could touch on that, please. And I may have one follow-up past that, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Kopecki.
So I'm going to have to, is that working? I'm going to have to follow up on that question, but what I can tell you is that depending on the specifications of what we're trying to manufacture for the customer, the recycled content will vary depending on the specifications. But I would say in relation to the example I used in 2024, where about 50% of our packaging was comprised of recycled content, the other 50 would be primary aluminum.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One follow-up. Thank you all so much. And for aluminums, and perhaps if there's a plastics expert, is there a point of recycle which you reach no value, that your carbon content in the metal from remelting it or the plastic reaches a contamination level where you can't use it? Or is that part of the recycle process that you clean it up?
Ms. Kopecki.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. Specifically for aluminum, each time you melt it, I would assume that there's some increase in carbon content and other contaminants in the metal itself. And I would assume that there's some process to extricate those contaminants from the metal from your final product. So is there a point of which there's no value to recycle aluminum or plastic because the reprocessing introduces contaminants to that metal or polymer stream?
So again, I'm going to have to follow up on that question, but what I can tell you is that aluminum is infinitely recyclable. So you can use it over and over and over and over and over again. There are types of aluminum that require further cleaning or processing, and that typically that aluminum goes to a secondary processor where they are able to melt it down and then recover the aluminum and sell that back to the company who's using that aluminum. But in terms of contaminants, if you're referring to contaminants within the facility itself as you're combusting or melting down the aluminum, all of our facilities that are casting operations have emissions control equipment installed. So anything that is an air emission is typically captured within those systems.
Representative Fritz. Okay. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Just interesting process, but let's start from the beginning. Now, right now, I know that local landfills don't necessarily get everything separated. So let's start there. Who is responsible and who pays for the landfill getting glass, aluminum, other products separated from each other? And who pays for that cost?
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Shaw, my assumption is that the taxpayer does, but I believe I would defer that to TDEC to answer that question. But it is my understanding that it would be the taxpayer.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So then that would be some increase on the taxpayers locally before it get to you then. I'm assuming it would be because you got to make that separation to do that. So you talked earlier about that taxpayers not being involved in this. So taxpayers would kind of be involved to some degree. Is that a fair statement? I'm asking because I don't know.
Mr. Cohen.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Short. The producers would actually fund the collection. It would no longer be solely on the taxpayer. That is the point of producer responsibility organization, where the producers, the Mars, the Unilevers, the Nestle's, those folks who are shipping their products into the state of Tennessee, their packaging that would be consumed by the consumer, would pay into the fund. Those are the folks who would be funding the collection and the processing of the materials. The taxpayer would be taken out of it primarily, and that's where the primary funding would come from the producers.
Representative Shaw, as well as you know, those are the same people. The taxpayer is the consumer. Go ahead, Representative Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. This is my last question. Help me understand, EPR, the policies, are they good? Would they be good for the state of Tennessee?
Mr. Cohen.
Yes, sir. That's exactly why we're here, and we are committed to educating and talking about how EPR policy could help expand our infrastructure, sir.
Representative Shaw.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Last question. Just in a short term, a short statement, just explain to me how it would be.
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to just, if I could, introduce Mr. Cody Marshall from the Recycling Partnership, the Recycling Partnerships are experts at EPR. And if it would be okay, and if it would please the committee, I would like to just defer perhaps and let maybe Mr. Marshall weigh in on that question.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm here to discuss the kind of the way in Tennessee. I've been lucky enough to work in the state of Tennessee for a number of years in the recycling and solid waste business, working with communities. I'm with the Recycling Partnership, a nonprofit its mission is to build a stronger recycling system. And what you have is in the state of Tennessee, 900,000 tons going to landfill currently that could be recycled. And that's not because residents of Tennessee don't care about it. It's because the burden of operating that system is on the local government. And I think that gets to your answer that local governments have a lot of competing priorities, and so they need resources. They need the capital and the operations in order to actually fund the recycling system. Collecting recyclables and then processing it is the most expensive part of recycling, and that's on the shoulders of the local government. And right now, local governments have decisions. They can put everything in a landfill, and that just goes and it gets buried, or collect that waste, separate it at the home. People would separate it at the home. And then then the material, the recyclables, bottles, cans, paper, go through a recycling process to feed the manufacturing in Tennessee and the Southeast. And I'll say that the Southeast and Tennessee is rich with manufacturing, and they're hungry for the feedstock, the recycled feedstock. And right now they're sourcing that material from the West Coast and throughout the U.S. And sometimes they're importing it, like's been said earlier. And so there's a real opportunity to, instead landfilling that 900,000 tons, actually capturing it and getting into the manufacturing around the state and through producer responsibility. Instead of putting that burden on the local government, it puts it on the producer to pay for it. The producer would be like the Coca-Colas, Pepsis, Unilevers of the world.
Thank you for that. Chairman Grills, and I will mention we don't have just a few more minutes, and then we've got another presentation which is going to be on a similar topic about recycling. So some of these questions are going to be pertinent to both. Chairman Grills.
And Mr. Cohen, you and I have talked several times. So you get in an elevator. Explain if you were to be in an elevator and somebody said, "What do you do for a living? What's your agenda? What are you driving?" Give us the 15-second speech of why this is a good thing, how it won't affect the consumer, how it won't drive prices up, how it won't make the convolute what the actual process we have now.
You're recognized.
That's a great question, Chairman Grills. I've said it before, and it's not BS, excuse the expression. I've spent 40 or 50 years putting packaging into the landfills. I see an opportunity to go ahead and make a difference and keep it out of the landfills. That's the short answer as to what my motivation is. I see this as the funding as a taxpayer. We have been going round and round trying to go ahead and fund systems that just don't work. This is a proven system over the past 30 years. How we do it depends on the folks here in state of Tennessee. We can do it. The EPR policy will work, sir.
Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these companies, we would put this fee on them, or they would attach this fee to whatever good they sell. The money that they would accumulate from those fees would go into a fund that the government would have control over. How would that fund be distributed, and what would that fund be used for?
Mr. Cohen.
Chairman Grills, it's a complex situation. It's a complex policy, but just to answer your question, the producers would pay in based upon the size of their package. The smaller the package, the more recyclable the package, the less the fee. The less recyclable, the more the fee, which actually encourages them to go ahead and incentivizes them to reduce the size of the package. The plan is created by the TDEC, the advisory board, and the PRO. It is a mutual system that goes, and that's what creates the plan to go ahead and expand the infrastructure, sir.
Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who would actually run that plan and that pot of money? Who would, and what would those dollars be used for?
The PRO would be running, the producers would actually be running the plan. That is their responsibility. They would go ahead and be issuing the funds, all under the guidance of TDEC and an advisory committee.
Chairman Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we're out of time.
Chairman Holsey.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Two questions. The practicality side of this thing. Give me a couple states that are successful in this, or way more successful than we are, and what process did they use to get a homeowner to separate out aluminum cans and glass and put it down at the end of his driveway? Is that how it works, or does it work where you have a system at the landfill that separates all this out and goes from there?
Mr. Cohen.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Halsey, I'm going to defer to Mr. Marshall on that.
Mr. Marshall.
There are 5 states that have passed EPR: Oregon, California, Colorado, Maine, and Minnesota. And they're all underway creating the rules for that statute. So that's just beginning in 5 states right now. And then all other states where you see cities and local governments have success, they usually pay for it through property taxes, and they fund the collection, a separate container, and then pay education to inform the residents to put bottles, cans, and paper in one container, garbage in another, and it goes to a material recovery facility called a MRF. And then the process goes from there.
Representative Halsey.
So in that particular case, the city government is going to have to pay for these different receptacles.
The
or county government.
Excuse me, sir. The current system in Tennessee is the local government pays for that recycling system, and the system in those other states I referred to, the producer responsibility organization, the PRO, and that state work together to actually pay for the system instead of the local government.
Okay, thank you.
And Representative Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it was mentioned a minute ago, I think you said 900,000 maybe pounds of recyclables are out there. Help me understand and help the committee to understand what we're looking at maybe currently in Tennessee, if you can give us an idea percentage-wise of what are in our landfills when it comes to construction and demolition, organics, and recyclables, or anything else that may make up that waste. But mainly, I want to get on the recyclables, how much is in there that we're leaving?
Mr. Marshall.
National standpoint, that construction demolition, yard waste, food waste, large majority of what's in a landfill. And what we're talking about today, I think I heard Mr. Cohen say 40% was packaging in the recent Tennessee information.
All right, and Representative Jones.
Thank you. I just had two questions. My first question is, first of all, I want to say thank you all for being here, talking about this issue of landfills. It's been an issue we talked about for my first term here, really big in Murray County, Rutherford County with these landfill issues. But one concern is that, looking at the ugly side of EPR, some folks say it appears in the form of an effort by Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and Nestle to extend EPR to all printing, paper, and packaging materials. They would establish EPR programs run exclusively by stewardship agencies under their control with a structure that gives the force of law to their policies. In other words, citizens would give up their right to vote on solid waste management and recycling decision-making. And so my question is, in which ways will this proposal that you're offering and presented to the committee, how will local communities retain control and input in their recycling decisions?
Mr. Cohen.
I am not quite sure where that statement had come from in terms of the stewardship. And I'm really not quite sure how to answer that, sir. I probably would have to get back to you.
Thank you for that. We're going to go to our next presentation. Can you hold that for the next presentation? Oh, okay, go ahead, Representative Jones.
Thank you. So I just had two questions. My second question was because we want to ensure the safe disposal, the safe processing of these recycled materials. And we have Kaiser Aluminum here, and this is my questions for you. Kaiser Aluminum, for years, worked with refractory products, asbestos, cement, and other materials, which caused exposure to many workers. Some workers filed lawsuits against the company after developing mesothelioma and other respiratory illnesses, which led to Kaiser's 2002 bankruptcy and reorganization in 2006. And so my question is,
Representative Jones, that is considerably off our topic, and I thank you all for being here today, and appreciate the presentation. I'm sure there'll be more conversation about this later. We have next a presentation by Recycling Insights from the National Waste and Recycling Association. If you guys would approach and get you a seat at the tables. Do y'all have a video or something? Okay, you've got some slides set up. Okay. Love it when technology actually works. You're hot.
Is this on?
Yeah,
Is this on?
It is. You're recognized.
No video today. I'm so sorry, y'all.
Introduce yourself and.
Of course. My name is Katie Rafferty Evans, and I'm the Vice President for Chapter Relations at the National Waste and Recycling Association. And thank you, committee members and chairman, for your time. I'm here to represent our members of the National Waste and Recycling Association, just to give a little bit of an update of some recycling insights that my members are doing within the state of Tennessee, and how we are here and committed to getting materials recycled and to the end users as needed. So just to give you a little bit of background about the NWRA, we've been around for over 60 years. Our main priority is to maintaining the quality of life through the private sector's waste and recycling industry, and we're an essential need. One thing I love is I love telling the story in 2020 where everything was shutting down, but we had drivers showing up the next day. And just to give you perspective, I've been in the industry for about 15 years. And prior to this role, I worked for a hauler for over 10 years and built a division in Cincinnati, Ohio, from five trucks to 100 trucks. So I know the ability and what it takes to get the job done. One thing NWRA's mission is provide effective state and federal advocacy work, education, research, and then finally, one of our number one priorities is safety. Getting off of that top 10 list when it comes to making sure that employees are safe, that drivers are safe, and that they're getting home to their families. Additionally, our goal at the NWRA is to be favorable to the business climate where our members can be productive, prosper, but also provide the services needed to the communities to provide a clean and healthy environment. So just to give you a final snapshot of the size of membership, I love this stat that NWA represents approximately 70% of the private sector in the waste and recycling industry. So I always joke around, if tomorrow my members decide not to collect trash, 70% of the waste and recycling would not be collected within the United States. And then we can always play Toby Keith's song, "How Do You Like Me Now?" When we come around, because nobody likes to talk about the waste and recycling industry quite like I do. So they give you some stats about the waste and recycling industry and the economic impact that we have today. Our members employ over 25,000 employees within the state of Tennessee. Our payroll is around $1.4 billion and our revenue is around $5.2 billion. So we have a huge impact when it comes to not only at a state level, but at the local level when we are providing services, but not only good paying jobs to employees at the local level. Some insights with currently what's going on within Tennessee when it comes to recycling. There has been significant investments in the infrastructure and technology and workforce development. Our commitment is still there to be a viable economic arm when it comes to supporting the state. Continuation and partnerships with TDEC and with our municipalities to enhance the recycling efforts through education and collaboration of expanding services. Private companies are leading the way when it comes to material recovery and end market development to make sure if there's a need, we try to get it there as cost effectively from the taxpayers to the consumer who wants to buy it. And then also the investment in MRFs. As previous speakers were talking about with Rumpke's MRF, that is actually in my backyard. And there's a lot of AI, a lot of investment and also development when it comes to being more efficient with the recycling process, especially when we have to deal with contamination rates and people who also take a look at the recycling container sometimes and wants to think of it as an extra garbage can and not a recycling container. And finally, corporate's goals were always determine the recycled content in packaging manufacturing. If there is a will, there is a way. A couple of my members are the largest recyclers within the United States, within the world. They are looking at it from a point of view of if it makes sense, let's do it. And if not, let's take a step back and figure out why we can't expand our MRF or why can't we place a MRF or why can't we site an organic site. So there's some other issues at play here than when it comes to expanding recycling on our end. Well, I'm sorry, there's, I guess, technology got a hold of me with the black box, but talking about the focus of some of our work, not only, you hear about the issues with technology when it comes to landfills, but we are at the end of the day investing in making sure landfills are efficient and effective. Yes, they smell. They're landfills. But at the end of the day, if you give us the time and the ability to put in the technology like gasification, wells, collecting the gas from the landfill. So we are now creating a new form of fuel for CNG trucks that you'll see some of these trucks, especially at the local level, rolling around is from the gas from the landfill. Also, technology is also giving us the ability to not only fuel our trucks, but to light the homes around our landfills. So for example, one of my members was able to provide electricity for 2,000 houses around the landfill from the gas coming from the landfill. And the best part is here is we're always constantly looking for the ability to conserve the land. Landfill operators and managers are sometimes some of the biggest environmentalists out there because we don't want the landfill to fill up as fast as possible. We need to conserve this land and be methodic about it and plan it out appropriately so we can meet the needs of the community, but also the land that we have at the moment. And that goes into conservation, where a lot of times our landfills are looking at abilities to turn wetlands clean, to clean up the area, making sure that the environment around it is taken care of. For example, one of my members has a reverse osmosis program where they're able to collect the leachate from the landfill, clean it out, and be able to discharge for clean water abilities. So there's a lot of technology out there and that is in play that we need the ability and the time to take a look at and make sure it makes sense for each or individual sites. So when it comes to Tennessee and EPR, I'm keeping this conversation at a high level. It is a commendable task to talk about an EPR structure, and the heart and the hustle from it is commendable. But there are a lot of holes that come into play when you're taking a look at such a big structure and not taking into place what is already on the ground. They did mention there's 5, but there's actually 6 states that are in play right now with implementing EPR. And our point of view is, let's take a step back and look at it. Nobody really has implemented the program yet. It's all in assessments, it's all into planning. And why push something so quickly, so fast without seeing how it plays out within the other states? We also see that there are some holes when it comes to just the politics, the inefficiencies of it, the unfair penalization to the producers, especially when it comes to if it's $2 million gross profit. Those are smaller, mid-sized companies. Even though they're making $2 million in profit, they are still trying to build a business, and this is something that will burden them and bog them down. And at the time right now, we're looking at EPR as just something that we need to wait and see and how it plays out, because we have some great examples in play now. So let's see how it goes. But this is my contact information, so you guys have the ability to contact me at the national level. Even though I work for the National Waste and Recycling Association, I'm from Kentucky, so just a skip a hop away in a snowstorm, I should say, because we're getting that. But I'm always appreciative and love coming down here to talk about the industry that I love.
Thank you for that, Ms. Evans. And Representative Fritz, we'll go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's kind of a follow-on question to the ones I'd asked the group earlier, and it seems there's a market for the recyclable feedstock. Is there some law in place now or regulation that's preventing your companies from being able to gain access to recyclable packaging material, glass, plastic, metals, and sell them to the manufacturing companies to recycle them? Is there something that's preventing that currently?
Right now, we are trying to solve some issues with landfill permitting, and actually just permitting in general when it comes to how we can expand or site MRFs within the state of Tennessee. We are working on a plan with TDEC and an assessment on that, because those are some of the things that are holding us back to investing within the state.
Representative Fritz.
Yeah, just to follow on that, not so much the landfill, what you're putting into the landfill, but the aluminum recyclables, the plastics. Is there a market now for your industry to be able to sell those to the next process
Absolutely.
chain customer, and are you exercising that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're exercising it when it meets the needs and the standards. We are collecting those materials within our MRFs and selling them to the end user in the market that needs them.
Representative Vital.
Thank you for your presentation, and actually both presentations. I just want to say I have the largest landfill in Hamilton County in my district, and they have worked continually to educate the public on recycling, which is the important key to this, is to get them to think about how you recycle and to start separating, not leave it to government or to the producer, which ultimately passes it on to the customer, but also look at ways to be more efficient at the landfill. And all I can say for landfills is just continue to tarp, because going to the landfill is a challenge with litter. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tarting is actually a safety protocol too, where we go back to the safety issues of floating litter. So yes, that's something on my heart too, is tarping.
And I'll wait for anybody else that might have any questions, but to circle back on what Representative Fritz mentioned, is there any regulatory obstacle right now that, other than obviously the landfill space issue, but for recycling specifically, anything that needs to be changed on our end from a legislative standpoint? I think a lot of this is just convincing consumers that we need to go down this road and this is important, and then having the collectors, folks in your industry that set up the processes to separate whatever that is, if that's at the curb or if that's in your facility, as we recently, some of us took a tour here locally of a great facility that's sorting this material out and getting it to those producers that want to recycle this material. So any legislative type obstacles that you see?
So when it comes to the Jackson Law and trying to take a look at the Jackson Law and its purposes, that's where we're finding some issues when it comes to citing these facilities. Just for example, one of my members was trying to cite a MRF in an area and was not able to get approval because of how there was no arbitration at the end of the conversation when it came to for the greater good. So those are some of those items that are hindering the expansion. It goes so far as if we want a composting site. I know we all talk about how we love Gatlinburg and the anaerobic digester that's down there. Well, we wouldn't be able to cite one in Tennessee because of the current laws that are in play when it comes to that siting. Yes, landfill is encompassed within that conversation, but it's about all of the solid waste facilities that are affected by it. It's not, even though landfill is the big hook sinker, it's everything that touches solid waste that cannot get permitted. Additionally, I would always tell state legislators, education. Where can we throw some money into education? How can we make sure that people are understanding what is recyclable and what's not? Because one of our biggest issues that we're having is called wishful recycling. When you get this piece of item and you're like, oh, I don't want to throw it away, but it'll just make me feel better if I throw it into the recycling container. And then we get to our MRF and it's not. Additionally, we're having a lot of issues with hard to recycle items. We can talk about the mattresses, we can talk about the tires, but batteries. We just saw that fire at the landfill. My first thought was, I'm assuming that's probably lithium batteries because lithium batteries are a huge problem within my industry. It's not if, it's when we have a fire, and I have trucks that are catching on fire daily. I've had a truck in my operation where a hot load went out. Next day, they went out to collect, that truck caught on fire again because of batteries. I have videos of literally you just throw a rock on a healthcare device and it just sparks and catches on fire. And so not only are we experiencing fires, Amazon's experiencing fires. FFA says they have 2 fires a week on planes. So that's something that at the national level, batteries is something that we're really focusing on, and how can we solve that issue?
Thank you for that. You mentioned the Jackson Law, and this committee, I'm sure, will hear that over and over again mentioned this year. Can you give us, I guess, your rendition of the Jackson Law and really what that means to this whole process?
Yes, so the Jackson Law is a law that was put in place in the 1980s, where it comes to process the protocol when it comes to how to cite a facility at the local level. It goes against 3 different boards. If there's a veto at one board, the process stops. And so there is no arbitration. There's no back end of, okay, this one board said no, but let's talk about it and see how we can fix the issue. It kind of just puts the play clock and stop. And so we want the ability to arbitrate, to communicate, and to have a further discussion if one local board vetoes the permit, if we have an opportunity to have a conversation at another level.
Okay, thank you for that. Chairman Reedy, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've hit a hot topic in my world. It's my wife is a chemistry teacher at the high school, so it's all batteries are recyclable. We need to do something with them. But you're bringing up a point of maybe corporate responsibility, because we know that there are so many used up batteries. In your crystal ball, do you see something more recycling? The more we talk about going green, the more batteries we're going to see, and the more problems we're seeing with batteries exploding, hit by water, hit by objects, and here we have a problem. Tell us what your thoughts are on how we can get around this, Ms. Evans.
My crystal ball with batteries is somewhat new since I'm a solid waste lady, but the more education that I get with batteries, especially at the lithium level, the more I'm starting to get fearful, because we are seeing a lot of products coming out of China that have these cheap batteries that are involved. So, or if you all of a sudden you have your phone and it's starting to get hot in the back of your pocket, that's that lithium battery battery heating up. There is a conversation at the manufacturing level of responsibility when it comes to how to handle batteries. What is the proper way to dispose of them? We do have a couple pieces of legislation in play in other states when the responsibility for the battery goes back to the manufacturer. We're working with Cal Recycling, Called Recycling, Partner to Recycling, all these battery associations to help kind of come up with a solution at that consumer lithium level, because we're seeing the influx from the foreign companies coming in. So your Milwaukee drill is going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's a Bosch drill. It's going to be great. But when you get the $30 or $20 drill from Temu or Shein or whatever, that's when you're seeing these fires.
Chairman Reedy.
I would be happy for you to stop by, see me. I'd like to take a look at this legislation as well that other folks are talking about, because you're right. It's the low end stuff. A lot of electric bicycles. And now the warning comes out, do not park that in your house or garage, because it's going to burn your whole house down. And it becomes a major issue that we've got to hold these manufacturers accountable when they're just making very low grade quality batteries for these different products. And thank you.
We're seeing it in toothbrushes, kids' toys. I mean, it's dangerous. And then when you see that Amazon truck on the side of the road on fire, it's because some cheap stuff was coming from China. So.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Any other questions for our guests? Seeing none, we appreciate you being here and your perspective, and look forward to having you involved in conversation as we move forward. Well, that's the end of our presentations. We'll go back into session without objection. We are back in session. Any other business before the committee? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned.